Hello there, readers. I've got another one here for you. I have just finished this one, The Running Man by Gerard Bauer. This book has won a whole heap of awards, and I filched it off my kid's desk. Liam is in year 10. Oh man, I had a mental blank then, forget what year my kid was in. He's in year 10 and they're reading it for school, so I thought, oh yeah, I'd like to be involved in that, thinking it was a book about the Vietnam War. It's not so much about that. What it is about is, yes, one of the main characters did go to Vietnam, but it's more about his reintegration back into society and the guilt that he carried from his tour, but as well as his friendship with, it's a story of kindness really, of just a kid who is going through some stuff and the things that they learn together. So this ex-Vietnam vet and this neighbour, young boy across the road, and what he's going through in his teenage years. So he's, probably about the same age as the kids actually, probably about 15-year-old. What struck me though, the conversation in it is pretty clunky, I reckon. I don't love the dialogue, not conversation, but the insights coming from, their internal dialogue is great. It's pretty heavy on the analogy between, I've got a kid coming in, of the analogy between these silkworms. That's pretty heavy. They do beat you over the head with that a little bit, but I suppose this is a book for teens, so that's kind of fair enough there. They wanted you to get that analogy, the emergence of the silkworm from the chrysalis, the struggle that's required, the fact that there's life cycles, the fact that things take time, blah, blah, blah. So I'm pretty sure they'll be covering that to a large degree as they're writing their essays and learning about it at school. So yeah, dialogue was a bit clunky for me. Didn't love that, but ultimately it's a pretty cool book. The thing that I was struck by though is that it's pretty dire in some ways. Ultimately there's the redemption and blah blah, we end up in the place that we end up in. Not going to give any spoilers with this one because I was hanging on by a thread for a little while there, wondering how this was going to go. But it's pretty dark in a lot of ways, in the way this Vietnam vet, his personal psychological damage that he's going through, the guilt that he carries, as I said before, and also stuff that this kid's carrying. But there's some dark themes in there, they definitely talk about some things that happened on his tour, and then there's a brief little component of some sexual abuse. Doesn't go into any detail, but just you realise that that does happen to somebody in passing. No language warning, but as I spoke to my teenager about it, I was surprised at his resilience. I suppose what this has done for me is reminded me of how resilient kids are. As I was reading it, I was very aware that our children are reading this stuff, and in that effort to not cocoon them but to cotton wool them, I suppose I was starting to think, really, is this appropriate? Is this what we want our kids reading? But when we had this discussion, I realised that they are a lot more resilient and a lot more able to deal with these concept themes than possibly we sometimes give them credit for. So if you're a parent, this is probably a pretty cool read, just to know that this is the kind of stuff that kids are going to pick up at school. And if we're doing our job, they're more than equipped to deal with this. They're more than equipped to deal with, it doesn't have to be all fantasy and fairy tales anymore. They are ready, willing and able to step into the real world as young adults, and they're capable to do that. And, they might surprise us. So, you could maybe even read it along with your teenager if that's something that you'd love to do. So give it a look. The Running Man. Happy reading. I'll be back soon.